Hi, Tara here with the Cross Plains Area Chamber of Commerce. Today is Thursday, April 9th, 2020. Today our topic of conversation is working on you and your business. The purpose of these videos on Thursdays is just to provide resources and recommendations of different things to help work on your business and yourself, especially during this pandemic. Today I'm going to provide a recommendation for a podcast. One of the things I just want to say kind of first off is that majority of the episodes on the podcast are considered explicit. So if you do not want to listen to that kind of language, that's not very heavy in the language, but there is some, just might not be the one for you. The name of the podcast is the Hustle and Flowchart podcast by Matt Wolf and Joe Fear. I first just want to say that I felt that it's just a very authentic and personable podcast. I felt like when listening to the interviews that I'm kind of part of it, like as if I'm there sitting with them, which is something I really enjoyed. They start the podcast off with Matt and Joe talking, kind of giving an overview of maybe how the guest was brought on, maybe some key points of what resonated with them from the interview, or some things that they want you to focus on when listening. The podcasts themselves are about an hour long. And after they do that little intro, they interview their guest and they give this history and story of the guest as they're interviewing, which I also like. Each guest is brought on to talk about a different product that guest sells, or maybe a business that they're in. And just hearing their journey is just very valuable, I think, as a business person, professional person. And it really just gives a deeper insight into how that product evolved in the beginning all the way to the end. The one other great thing about this podcast is that it provides notes. So I'm always multitasking when I'm listening to a podcast, and oftentimes they'll talk about something that I thought was like super interesting, and I'm like looking to see if I can find a pen and paper, which I can't, and then I'm like trying to back up my podcast, and they provide notes that you can text a number, and they will provide you all the notes from the podcast, which I think is super awesome. The other thing is, if you do not want to listen for an hour, they have another podcast called Hustle and Flow Shorts. And Jacob Gooden, I think, kind of talks on that one and pulls out segments from the day's video, or excuse me, the day's podcast, which is just a nice other aspect. So if you're not interested in listening to the whole thing, or maybe you've listened to the hour one and maybe just want to kind of have a brief summary to kind of go over it again, they have the Flow Shorts, which is pretty cool. The topics of conversation range kind of all across the board. They have the stuff entrepreneurs are scared to talk about, which I thought was a really great one. They talk everything from membership to technology, social media, things about understanding yourself, your branding. And really, they're all great from a business perspective, but I can relate all of these podcasts in a personal perspective as well, which I think is just great for anybody out there that is just looking for something that's good to kind of make them feel better, especially in days like today when we're kind of in a sense of uncertainty. So it was just a really great podcast, the Hustle and Flowchart podcast, again, by Matt Wolf and Joe Fear. Check it out. Let me know what you thought about it if you do. There's, I think, over 200 episodes. There's quite a few. So there's a lot to choose from. Kind of scroll through, see if you see something that you like, give it a listen, and let me know what you think. And until then, I will see you tomorrow for Friday. Don't forget to check in for Fridays. We're going to be doing what's happening in Cross Plains, and we've got a lot of stuff going on. Have a great afternoon. Thanks. Bye.